Today you're going to be making a PowerPoint for your book project. You can also turn this in Language Arts. When you're done, I did follow their rubric. Okay, so first you need to open PowerPoint. You can just go to the start bar and search it. We are not going to do a blank presentation this time. You can pick whichever template you like. I like to choose one that might match the book. Like if there was water in your book, you could pick that droplet one, or if there was... If it doesn't really matter, just pick one you think is pretty. I like this one, so I'm going to pick this one. Once you click on one, you might have more options over here. Click on them, you can see what they look like. Find one you like, and once you get it the way you like it, hit create. That template will automatically go in. First page that's up here is your title page. Please write the name of your book that you've been reading for Language Arts. You're also going to write the author's name. I can't remember my author's name. I'm going to look it up really quick. But you also have to put your name as well as your class period. So I'm going to really quick look up who wrote that book. I don't have the book with me. It's been about a year since I read it. So I want the book, not the movie. Here it is. Alright, I'm also going to take this picture of the book cover so that I can use it on my PowerPoint. And it's okay to copy paste in PowerPoint. So I just right clicked and copied the image. It's by Veronica Roth. I'm going to paste that image. Don't click on that first clipboard like I just did. You want to click on the one that has a picture. So right here, the one that has a picture on it. Alright, put that somewhere where you think it'll look good. And here we go. Alright, also make sure to put your name and your class period. More than one class period, you can put both. You can stretch that bigger if you want it to show up better. Alright, get your picture the way you want it. Now we're going to our next slide. So right click and go new slide. You can change the layout of the slide up here if you don't like the way it looks, and this is under the home tab layout. This is fine for me because my next slide that you guys have to do is setting, and you need to have at least 3 pictures of the setting as well as a couple bullets describing the setting. So the setting on my book, my book is a world that is separated into factions, and a lot of the book takes place on...
What's up, Mom? Get off.
A large part of the book takes place on a train. Okay, so I'm going to go online and I'm going to find pictures. So for me it's easy because I have a book that they made a movie out of. So I can actually search for the name of my book and get images from the movie. For you, you want to think like if the setting is in a park, you want to find a picture of a park. If the setting is a hospital, find a picture of a hospital. Okay? And like me, I didn't get very many pictures here, so I'm going to type in setting and get some more pictures of what it actually looked like in their city. Is a good one of the city. Once you find a picture, go ahead and right click on it and copy image. Sometimes it says copy picture, usually copy image. And then you can go back to your PowerPoint and you can make sure you right click outside of the text box and then click paste. So So again, I need 3 pictures, so I'm gonna, I think the next one I'll do is the train. They're in an electric train in a lot of the movie, so that's what I'm gonna search for, is electric train. And keep typing in different things until you get the picture that you want. One word can make all the pictures change. Again, right click, copy image, and right click and paste. Put it where you want it. Let's go get our 3rd picture. I want like an underground training area, because the Dauntless are underground a lot of the movie and a lot of the book. So boxing's not quite what I want. They're not quite in a cave either. I think I'll have better luck typing in finding the movie pictures on this one. Now again, if yours doesn't have a movie, you have to go with what closest thing you can find, and you can always put a brief description on your PowerPoint about what it is if it doesn't quite match up perfectly. Like this cave would have probably worked. Not quite what I was looking for though. Yes, this is much more what I was looking for. Something like this, underground, but they're training. So again, copy paste it, very easy. The image, back to your PowerPoint, paste, and occasionally it won't let you copy paste, in which case you could save it to your desktop and then insert picture, just like we do in Microsoft Word. Okay, now I'm ready to go to my next slide. Try to get my pictures formatted here. Alright, new slide. Alright, this is going to be my character slide. You need a character slide. And I'm going to change the layout because I want to do 3 characters, so I need something with 3 boxes. Okay, so I'm going to just put my characters' names in the top box. I can't quite remember who I want to use, so I'm just going to Google the characters from the book. And it's not bad to use the internet as a resource. If you can't quite remember a character's name, it's okay to go on the internet and find it. You can find Wikipedia pages for a lot of books and they'll list the characters for you. Sometimes it's hard to remember their names. What's important to your teachers is that you know the story. I think I'm gonna look at this one. I think I'll go with Eric, because Eric is kind of the bad guy in the book. So I picked the main character, her partner, and then the bad guy. Protagonist and antagonist. You can choose any 3 characters from your book, but try to stick to the main characters, the ones that are talked about the most in the story. And you got to do at least 3. This is the minimum, guys. Alright, now just give a brief summary of each character. So I'm just going to describe Triss a little bit here. And then I'll describe Thor, and then I'll describe Eric. Just brief sentence explaining what kind of a person they are and things that, just something about them. So here I'm just going to kind of talk about how in the beginning she didn't know who she was, and she really wanted to figure out who she was. And then by the end, she's just a super soldier, tough, brave girl. Of course, I'm going to use formal speech when I type this up. I don't want to write it like I would say it. I want to write it very formally and professionally. PowerPoints are all about giving a little bit of information with lots of visuals, so make sure that you don't drag this on too long. They don't want a whole story, they just want a brief summary of the character along with a picture. The long summary will go in your paper that's turned in with the assignment. Summarize each of the 3 characters. And you notice how when I misspell things, it puts a red line underneath it? That means it's spelled wrong. Some words, like the word tris, is spelled correctly, and I know that, so I'm not gonna fix it. But other words, I need to go back and fix. And to fix it, you can just right click on it and it'll show you the correct spelling. I'll do mine here in a little bit. Again, here I'm just summarizing what kind of a person 4 is. He's Tris's teacher. Personality-wise, they're very similar. They complement each other, and they become a very powerful team together. So he's like her number 2. And of course, Eric is 4's teacher, and he's our antagonist. He's our bad guy in the story. So I would describe him as mean and vindictive. That means he likes to get vengeance. Kind of like Joker, mean and vindictive. And we don't really see another side of Eric. We just see that side of him. He's a one-sided, flat character. Okay, once I'm done with my summary, I'm gonna go find a picture. Well, I'm gonna correct my spelling, and then I'm gonna go find a picture of a character, a picture of each one. Now, you might not have a movie made for your book. That's okay. Just think of how you pictured them in your head as you were reading, and try to find a picture similar to that. So if your character was a blonde girl, you want to try to find a picture of a blonde girl. Or a brown-haired boy, find a picture of a brown-haired boy. That kind of is how you pictured them. So I'm just going to make my font a little bit bigger here, and then I'll start putting in my pictures. I already copied my picture, but I want to make the words easier to read. Alright, now just make sure when you paste your pictures that you're not inside the text box. Go outside the text box before you paste them. Because what will happen sometimes is, 1, it'll either delete your text box, or 2, it won't paste at all. Alright, I really like these that have the little summaries next to them. I know you can't really read the summaries, but that's okay. I just like them. I think they look neat. And again, PowerPoint's all about the visuals, so you really want to lay it out carefully. You notice I'm moving things around a lot, and that's because you want it to look nice. You don't want it to be too busy or things not feeling balanced. I try to, if I do a picture one way on one side, I want to match it on the other side. So that's why I moved that character title page, because I wanted the pictures to be next to each other in a line. And so even now you can tell some are higher than the others, so I need to move this one down. Kind of line it up right. Okay, now we're going to go to my next slide. We're going to go back to a normal layout. And this one's going to be talking about our plot pyramid. Fun! Alright, so remember, plot pyramids are they have the beginning, the rising action, the climax, falling action, and the resolution. So So I need to find a smart art here. Of course, I went insert smart art. None of those pyramids look like they'll work. I want to find one that I'm able to do the parts of the plot pyramid. So let me just look through these. Find a good one. Okay, those hierarchy pyramids will probably work. Let me see if I can find anything better. I don't know if we could probably look online and find one that is a plot pyramid. But I think that hierarchy pyramid will look just fine, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. Let me just find it again. And I'm going to use the first one right here. I think that'll work. I just got to move this bottom one up here so that it makes the falling action. So now I have my parts of my plot pyramid. So of course the first one, you gotta type the official name for it. You can't just write beginning. So let me see here. Exposition. So what happened at the beginning of your story? How did they introduce the story? And with my book, it was the part where she's deciding whether she's going to stay in her home faction or whether she's going to switch to Dauntless. So I'm just going to write that in formal language really quickly. Don't make it too long. You want it to be short. I'm just going to write she's trying to figure out who she is and where she belongs. Short and sweet. That's what happened in the beginning. Okay, now my rising action is where it's leading up to the climax. So we're not at the most interesting part of the book yet, but it's all the stuff that leads up to it to make the most interesting part of the book. And this is when she's already chosen Dauntless and she's training, and Eric's trying to get her kicked out, but she's working hard because she wants to be a good soldier and she wants to be part of the faction. So again, I'm going to summarize that really short, and it's when Triss decides to change factions and work really hard to become Dauntless. And I couldn't remember the names of the factions, so I had looked this up really quick. And again, it's good to use the internet if you can't remember something. I didn't want to mess it up. I wanted to make sure I spelled them correctly. So there's Abnegation, Erudite, and then Dauntless. Okay, so that's all I was looking up, is I needed to remember the names of the factions. And see, I almost got that wrong. So she decides to change factions and join the Dauntless. Oh, and it was very important that she finds out if she fails her test as a Dauntless, she will be excommunicated. She'll be factionless. They're going to kick her out. She'll pretty much be homeless. And again, right-click if you misspell something and correct it. Make sure the word you're clicking on is the correct word, though. Climax, and in my story, this was where the president of the Erudites decides to use a chemical to turn all of the Dauntless into mindless zombies, and she has them attack the Abnegation, and this is where Triss is from, so she's not going to kill her own family. So because she's a divergent, the serum doesn't affect her, so she's actually able to fight for her, basically she's able to fight for her family, and that's the climax, where they're going to attack her people, and we want to know what she's going to do. It's really interesting. It's the part where you don't want to put your book down. That interesting. Okay, following actions were how are they solving the problem in the climax to try and work towards a resolution. And this is where Trish joins up with her family and she's fighting back. And again, the next one, the resolution. How does your book end? How does the problem finally get solved? In my book, they end up killing the president of the Erudite, and they escape barely onto the trains. And it leaves you kind of wondering what's going to happen next. Where are they going to go? Pretty much their whole system of factions has crumbled because of this whole event. So kind of leaves room for a few more books. There are 2 more books in the series. And again, don't just pick something that you've only seen the movie on, because I read this book. I know a lot more details than the movie gives. And your teacher will be able to tell if you've just seen the movie and not read the book, because there's a lot of details in the books that aren't in the movies. So make sure you're choosing a book that you've actually read. Alright, and because it's PowerPoint, minimalists would choose to leave it at that. We want to add pictures. We want our PowerPoint to pop and be entertaining and interesting to the viewer. So that way they have something to look at while you read all those boring points. We don't want them to be bored. We want them to be interested. And the better the pictures. Okay, so my first one was about her choosing who she's going to be. So I Googled choices and I found a good picture that represented that. And again, I don't want to paste it in the text box. I want to paste it outside the text box. Okay, rising action. She's going to change factions. And again, she chooses to be Dauntless, who are fighters. So I'm going to look for a fighter. I don't want just any fighter. I want a girl fighter kicking butt. So let me change my search a little bit. A girl boxing. A lot of good pictures here. A lot of pictures that'll speak to people. Hi, taking a lesson. To the box so we can tell it goes with that box, and so I need to send it behind the box. So that's what I did. Just right click on it, send to that, and it'll go behind your text box.
For this slide, you have to do a summary of your book. There are a couple things they want you to cover. Ignore that insert table thing. We don't need to insert a table. I accidentally clicked on it. So the things you need to cover about your book in the summary are who, what, when, where, and how, as well as the conflict and the resolution. So you want to talk about who your book's about, when it takes place, what happened, where it happened, and how it happened, and then cover the main problem in the story and how it was solved. Type a quick paragraph. Don't go into too much detail. Try to keep it as short as possible. Remember, you're also going to turn in a page with the same information, more extensive, so you don't need to go into a lot of detail right here. Also, double check with your teacher. Not all teachers want a summary page, so just check on that. I know Miss Reynolds does, and I know Miss Coker said she didn't, but she may have changed her mind, so double check on that.
So it's about who? It's about Trish. For when, you can say it takes place in the past, takes place in the future, takes place in the present. And what or where, I'm talking about how the world is, where she's at. A world where people are separated into factions where they all have the same personality. And then after I introduce the who, what, when, where, and how, then I'm going to go into what is the conflict of the story and how is it resolved. Is what is the problem in the story. And it could be someone fighting with themselves, like they have an internal problem. Maybe they're scared, or they're like her, she had to choose who she wanted to be. It could also be people physically fighting, or wars, or things like that. There's three types of conflict: man versus man, man versus nature, and man versus self. So make sure you mention what type of conflict. So hers is man versus self and nature, since she's struggling with who she's going to be, and then she's also struggling with them trying to kill her family, and she has to fight them back. And again, just any words that are misspelled, make sure you go back and fix them. And check with your teacher if they do want the summary, because I know like Miss Coker told me she doesn't, and then Miss Reynolds told me she does. So just double check with this slide with your teacher, because I know you're turning in the paper itself as well. And they don't want the whole paper on your PowerPoint, just a brief synopsis of what your paper is about. But make sure you cover the who, what, when, where, and how, and the conflict and the resolution. That is the important part. So there you go. Resolution. They fight back and barely escape with their lives. So now I can fix my spelling, and then I'm going to erase the top 2 bullets because I just put them there to make sure that I cover them so I wouldn't forget anything. And even looking back at this now, I think I might have forgot the when because I didn't put that into the futuristic story. Again, there's always room for improvement. Okay, so I'm going to delete those, get rid of this bullet, don't need it. And then of course it's a PowerPoint. There's not a lot of room left on this slide for pictures, so I'm going to actually make the picture the background. Find a good picture here.
And again, using the internet is not a bad thing. I don't have the book with me, so I'm going to look up a quote from the book. And if you're lucky, maybe you can find some online for your book as well. If not, you'll have to go back through your book and try to find a sentence or two where you thought it gave a good message. So I'm just going to kind of read through these, find one that I like the message the most. They want two things when you're interpreting your quote. One is tell me what you think it means. And the second one is, well, first here, let me tell you what I think it means. So this one, the second one is to give an example of, like evidence from your book showing that that's what it meant. So the first one, I think becoming fearless isn't the point. That's impossible. It's learning how to control your fear and how to be free. I think it meant that everyone's scared of something, but if they can control their fear, then they can get past it. And if you get past your fear, it's not scary anymore. And then you can keep the fear from controlling your life. So think of like if you're afraid of snakes, and then you're forced to hold a snake for a whole hour, and you realize that they're not just there to bite you. You might not be so scared of snakes anymore. Okay, and then you have to give evidence from the story. So in the story, they take this test, and it takes them to what's called their fearscape, where they have to experience their greatest fears, and they have to figure out how to overcome them. So one of Triss's fears was birds attacking her, and so in the story, she had to like run through the birds and find a way to kill the birds, and I think she ends up burning them, and then she's not scared of them anymore because she realizes she's more powerful than they are, and so that she gets over her fear, so it's not one of her fears anymore. So that's what I said, that she could get past her fears by using the things and the people that were around her, and again, the rest of it to become free from it. So this helps her be free from her fear. So first one, what you think it means, and your second one is your proof from the book on what it means. And again, you would probably want to add a picture here. Here I'm talking about fear, so I'm going to go online and find something scary. Alright, before I do that, I want to add some transitions. So just go up to the transition tab, and for each slide, click on a transition you want. This is the motion it'll do from moving to one page to another. So I'm going to set up the first 3, and then I'm going to show you what it does. So just pick one you like. You can try different ones out to decide what you like. And each one can have a different transition. Alright, so if you go to preview, you can see there's our transitions going from slide to slide. And I didn't put them on all of them, so I still got to add them to the other ones. So again, I'm going to click on the slide, go up to transitions, and then click on the one I want. And then the way I previewed it is I went to slideshow and then start presentation. Slideshow tab. Also animate each object on the page, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So it'll switch slides, and then each thing will come in one at a time rather than showing them everything all at once, because you might not want them to see, for example, like the